now by Lirandzu Themba, the police minister's spokesperson. Lirandzu, thanks so much for joining us. Is the police minister going to resign, as the DA said he should?
Thank you so much, Sally, for the opportunity. I think the police ministry takes cue from what the president has said last week, where he expressed his full confidence in the capabilities as well as the work of the police minister. And it is on that score that the police minister does not have any such plans.
I seem to have lost your audio. Let me just check with our team. Lirandzu, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sally. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can now hear you. So you're saying that the police minister takes his cue from the president. However, of course, we know that the crime rate is very high. John Steenhuisen pointing to, on average, 67 murders every day in South Africa. And it's a crime rate that's increasing. How can he defend that and his position, bearing in mind the shocking crime stats?
Look, Sally, I think we can all agree that there is a crime problem in the country. This has been an admission not only by the police minister, but also by the president. But what is important here, fundamentally, is that the SAPS, as well as the police ministry, have put their heads together and are putting in place plans, but not just plans, but interventions to make sure that this picture is turned around. We also have to just go back a bit and look at our past, where this SAPS has come from, where people were in the wrong positions, where there was an erosion of critical units within the SAPS, which really led to what we're seeing now. But we know that there is a shift. For example, we have seen some successes when it comes to the prosecution of crimes committed against women and children through our FCS units, Sally. We know that there has been a DNA backlog, which has been a really painful era in the country, but there's been huge strides in that aspect. We're sitting just under 90,000 backlog of the DNA samples in our forensics laboratory labs. This is a downtrend from over 200,000, Sally. So I would respectfully, push back to the idea that nothing is being done around the high crime rates. Can more be done? Certainly, but we are seeing that some of the interventions are bearing fruit. Just 2 weeks ago, we released a crime stats, Sally. And if you allow me, just to illustrate how provinces like Mpumalanga have recorded decreases in all their crimes, violent crimes, that is. They've recorded decreases in murder. They've recorded decreases in all cases of assault as well, which means that there are plans that are in process in that province, but also other provinces that are starting to bear fruit. It was never going to happen overnight, Sally, but it is certainly, the wheel is turning around, and we will win the fight against crime. That, as a police ministry, we're quite convinced of.
Has the police minister received the DA's memorandum? Has he given you a specific message on receiving that memorandum?
Well, Sally, there wasn't a memorandum that was handed over. In fact, the Democratic Alliance simply marched to the DA, rather to the office of the minister, so the doorstep of the minister, where they made all these really utterances and statements, many of them littered with insults to the Minister of Police. But as a police ministry, we will not go down that same road. We're simply saying that we hear you. It's unfortunate that these sort of insults have to be used to prove whatever point that they're trying to prove. But we feel that these are political gimmicks that maybe want to derail the work of the ministry. And the Minister of Police is quite confident that there is work that is cut out for him. And these sort of, insults are not going to steer him away from the job that's in front of him.
You mentioned the DNA backlog, and that's a big one, because we know that every DNA kit that isn't processed on time means that a suspect might get off the hook. And it's particularly important regarding rape. So you say that the backlog is now down to 90,000, down from 200,000. When is that backlog actually going to be cleared?
So, Sally, this is really thanks to special and extraordinary interventions in the forensic science laboratories of the SAPS, where we're seeing that there's 18-hour days, that we've seen an injection of more personnel, we've seen the better management of contracts, because we know that those are some of the problems that were plaguing the forensic service laboratories, which led to the backlog. So we're sitting at about 88,000 in terms of the backlog. And we are really hoping that by the end of the year, at this pace that we're going, surely by the end of the year, we're going to be seeing a much lesser figure. But we also want to mention, and this also goes back to the call by the DA around how this ministry does not really give a toss about gender-based violence and crimes against women and children. And we would like to respectfully push back on that one as well, because it is through partnerships, joint projects with the NPA, where gender-based violence, crime, court-ready cases are being prioritized, meaning that if there's a court-ready case and there is DNA samples that are needed, those cases are being prioritized so that the victims and survivors of whatever crime that took place there do get the justice that is needed. This is all the while running in parallel with the process of trying to eradicate.
I want to ask you a quick question about, John Steenhuisen saying that your boss is a clown, and I'm wondering if you do sometimes feel that way. And the reason I ask that is one specific issue that springs to mind, and I think that the minister just sometimes fails to understand the tone. And this relates to what happened in Krugersdorp, where women were gang raped. And he said, you were lucky if you were only raped once. And we kind of know what he meant. But in reality, it was absolutely the wrong and insensitive thing to say. As a woman yourself, do you cringe when you hear him saying things like that?
That's a very tough question, because you're asking me on my personal capacity as a woman, but also in my capacity as a spokesperson. I work very closely with the Minister of Police, and I can tell you one thing, that he does not clown around when it comes to issues that adversely affect women and children of this country. He's the one person who's always, screaming from the top of the mountain around the responsibility that men in society have to take with regards to, making sure that gender-based violence is not perpetrated under their name. But I can safely say, to answer your question, Sally, the Minister of Police is not useless, and neither is he a danger to society, as has been suggested in this protest action by the DA. And it is unfortunate that the minister was taken out of context when he said what he said, and you even admitting it, Sally, that we all know what he meant. But it's unfortunate that those words are now being used against him and really trying to erode the work that he, as well as the SAPS management and the SAPS, the 178,000 police officers on the ground, are trying to do in terms of keeping not only the children of this country, but the women and also the South Africans safe. So with that, I think it's safe to say that the Minister of Police would never in any way intend to say that any woman is lucky to be raped, let alone by one person. It's something that was unfortunate, and it was unfortunately interpreted. And by the way, it was mentioned on your very station when you were talking to your colleague, Thulasizwe Simelane. And I believe that Thulasizwe Simelane would have took him on if he ever felt that the minister would have said that and not understanding the context. So it is about context, and the context there was muddied.
All right,
and
so you're
really
saying his intentions are good, even if sometimes the phrases are somewhat unfortunate, and also you're saying on track to deal with that DNA backlog. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, Lirandzu Themba, Police Minister's spokesperson. Now,